Hello Internet, and welcome to a new tutorial. I've realized recently that most of my patches have in somehow the same origins, even though most of them have nothing to do in common with each other's. I mean, when I'm in front of this initial patch, basic blank canvas, I always tend to take the same routes or the same starting points and then build my patches from there. These starting points, most of them, are the very first sounds I've learned how to program to patch on a synthesizer. So they're pretty basic and utilizes basic functionalities of a synthesizer, but still pretty powerful if you develop them correctly. So I thought to myself it'd be pretty interesting to start a series of videos in which I'll show you my starting points and how we can develop them to make them more interesting, like spice things up with them. So yeah, with that said, this is the very first tutorial of this series of videos. Now, before we dive into this tutorial, if you'd like to support the channel, you can always consider becoming one of my patrons, buy my presets on Gumroad, or just leave a like, comment, subscribe. Things like that help the channel a lot. Now, with that said, let's dive into this tutorial. So here we are in Bitwig, and the sound I want to work with and show you is actually one of the first sounds I've learned and one of the first Virus 8 tutorial I've posted on this channel. It's the famous sawsweep, which is maybe not that famous as I think, but anyhow, let's take Serum. And let's make things clear. In this series of videos, I'll always try to show you how to make the sound in a well-known synthesizer like Serum, Vital, maybe Pigments, and how to make it in Polygrid. So you will have always the option of, I can do it in Bitwig, but if I don't use Bitwig or I don't want to use Bitwig's native devices, there's always the other choice. So yeah, the sound is, as I said, pretty basic. So here we have a saw wave, nothing too special. I'll take it an octave lower, and if I'll add a 24 decibel per octave bandpass filter, just like so. Basic 40 noise. Now let's see how we can spice things up. So first thing I like to do is actually make it more analogish. Okay, there's this really nice wavetable in here called Basic. Let's see, it was the CGW. It has a really nice saw wave to it. So what I'm going to do, I'll modulate the fine in here to emulate the drift an analog synthesizer has. Okay, so to do so, I'll just take an LFO shape in here, basic, I'll set it to flat 50, and I'll just add wiggles in here like so. But for the sake of the tutorial, I'll just keep it simple like this. Maybe 0.5 Hertz, and I'll make it modulate the fine pitch a tiny bit. Now we have this. Now, instead of adding a bandpass filter right away, we can actually spice the sound by adding, first off, phaser, like so. I'll add phaser 48 plus, because why not? Now we have this. Pretty nice. I'll modulate that with the second LFO, just like so. Set it to trigger, make it modulate like this. Pretty cool. I'll set the LFO to envelope. And the third LFO in here will modulate the second filter, which I'll set to bandpass 24, just like so. I'll crank that resonance. Now we have this. Pretty cool. Third LFO, just like so. I'll set it to something like a saw, maybe like this. Set it to envelope. 1 bar. Now we have this. Pretty basic sweep, actually. Maybe this LFO, I'll set it to, yeah, more of a triangle shape. Give it some more resonance. I'll add some distortion. Here I'll use stompbacks. Pretty cool. Now let's add a delay. And the delay in here, I'll actually use it as an effect, not as a delay unit. I'll link both channels in here. I'll take off the BPMs, I'll leave it to milliseconds, and check this out. If I'll crank the feedback a little bit, give it more mix, play with the time, we'll get this. Let's take LFO2 and let it modulate a tiny bit. Now we have this. Pretty cool. And now let's add a delay plus device in here. And we got ourselves a classic sound revisited. Maybe we can take off the distortion. Now let's see what we can do inside of Polygrid. I'll keep the union oscillator in here because it's supposed to do some analog mojo, so I'll just leave it like so. The ADS on here, I'll set it to full sustain, attack, release. I want, less release, so now we have this. Nothing too special, I know. Let's take it one octave lower. I'll go the same route with Serum patch, but I'll spice it up differently, if that makes sense. I'll take the phaser effect in here, just like so. Turn off the phaser for now. I'll add a filter, just like so. I'll use the silent key filter because the last update, version 4.3, they've added these awesome flavors to the filter, and it's just awesome. So I'll use the bandpass 18 decibel per octave. I'll give it some more volume like this. Get some more resonance. Now I have this. And what I'm going to do, I'll modulate the filter with an LFO. I'll take an LFO. I'll set it to a bar. Modulate just like this. Perfect. And I'll modulate it with this kind of a sine wave thing. Okay, so now we have this. Pretty cool. Now it's the phaser's turn. So I took off the internal LFO depth in here. I've cranked the mix all the way up. I've set it to the MF. MF is my favorite algorithm for this phaser for now. And what I'm going to do, I'll leave the feedback almost all the way up. Now we have this. Pretty cool. So I'll modulate the color in here, which is basically the frequency, with the same LFO. Now we have this. Or we can actually do the inverse, just like so. Pretty awesome, right? And now I can add a delay. Okay, pretty cool. So how we will spice things up in here? Actually, I'm going to spice them up with a little comp filter, just like so. So the comp filter here, we can actually tune it to our root note, and this project is in G sharp. And actually in Bitwig, if we click on the tuning knob in here, if you look in here, it'll tell us the cutoff frequency and the note it corresponds to. Check this out. So now I've set it to take it to G sharp -1, just like so. I'll crank that feedback, take off the low pass in here, and check this out. And I'll turn off the key tracking. Maybe you can set it to negative. I prefer positive. Pretty nice. And what we can do to further spice things up in here, I'm using one single LFO, so just to keep things simple for this tutorial, but you can go really wild with it. But one nice way to further spice things up is to play with this Q parameter in here. So check this out. Maybe add some internal LFO to the phaser. Or maybe we can take the whole comp filter off. So yeah, pretty nice. With this is the end of this tutorial. Please, when you make sounds like this, don't forget to post them on Instagram and tag me. I'll leave the link to my Instagram down in the description. And yeah, with this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you've liked it. I really hope you've learned something new. Have a great one. See you next time.